Hello and good afternoon, everybody. My name is Corey Pujols, your host for Palm Tree Sports, brought to you by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And guys, it's a wonderful Saturday afternoon here in South Florida. Weather's beautiful, all right? There's a lot going on in the world of sports. Of course, things are kind of scattered right now, and I'm always going to give you guys this disclaimer right now. While sports is kind of the main sports, I should say, for Florida are going to be a little subsided at the moment, you know what I'm saying? And that's just due to the fact that we're in the off season for some of our major sports such as football and baseball, and that would be obviously both professional and collegiate in football case and category. But that also means we're getting closer to March Madness. So as we shift away from one sport, we're going to shift into a heavier dose of another sport. And guys, it's just something to be excited about, especially if you like to watch all the different sports out there, because that's what I'm going to be coming at you guys with, a little bit of all of that. So we're going to go ahead and get things started off with Tampa Bay. Today's show, for the record, guys, is going to be a little bit shorter than average. And I know usually it just depends on how much there is to talk about, right? But right now, like I said, we're kind of in a stagnant motion, moving very, very slow, almost like we're reaching the edge of an event horizon, for those who know what that is. So let's just give it some time to develop. But as far as Tampa Bay is concerned, there is something huge to report out of Tampa Bay. We do finally have an offensive coordinator. For all those who were looking at Tampa Bay and saying, man, they're going to struggle to find one. You guys are right. We were going to struggle to find one, but we did find somebody. I think this guy's a great hire. All right. So his name is Dave Canellis. For those who are Seahawks fans, you guys are going to know him as your quarterbacks coach, who worked with Geno Smith up there, helped mold him into a comeback player, if you will. I don't think he ever looked better in his career than he did last year with the Seahawks. And if things had been different, a few plays had been different for the Seahawks, as you fans may know, that those games could have gone you guys' way. So, with those things being said, we'll just have to wait and see what happens next, right? With especially now that we have the offensive, we made him our offensive coordinator, and the reason why I'm trying to say that is because there is talk that Geno Smith may find himself here in Tampa. So I don't know how strong that rumor is. I don't know if there's going to be any traction gained to it, but it's a possibility. It's been seen before. It's been done before, where a coordinator goes somewhere and players follow. It is what it is. So we'll see what happens next. Geno Smith would be absolutely welcome here in the quarterback room, considering we don't have much of one at the moment, guys. There's also been rumors of some other quarterbacks that may be on the market. Obviously, Lamar Jackson, Derek Carr, Rodgers, and so the most recent name that I've seen was what's that kid's name? Justin Fields out of Chicago. Now, Justin played at the Ohio State University, okay, where they're also looking at one C.J. Stroud. So there's this dynamic where the Bears could trade away Justin Fields because they're drafting somebody else that they feel may better fit the mold, but in which case somebody like a Justin Fields, who is a dual threat quarterback, would be absolutely welcome here in Tampa, knowing that our division is susceptible to dual threat quarterbacks, one, and two, our offense could potentially thrive with this new offensive coordinator we have coming in. So there are a lot of moving pieces that can morph Tampa Bay back into a powerhouse. What people have to understand is Tampa is not far off from where we were 2-3 years ago, okay? We still have a great young defense. We still have a lot of young talent, and we have the draft ahead of us. This team has, a lot of upside on it, just depending on if you want to pay attention to it or not. And I think that's what happens with a lot of people, is that they get hung up on what's not happening versus what could happen with a few smart moves. So let's just hope that this Dave Canellis hiring is the first in many of those steps, and that we can return to prominence into the top of our division, and as well as the conference for that matter, And yeah, a lot of people wrote Geno Smith off. Geno Smith played football. I was fresh out of high school, I think it was, watching Geno Smith, and he was at West Virginia, I believe it was. He was a Mountaineer, you guys. And now that team is a team that doesn't get as much national attention as they did 20 years ago, but for anybody who watched the Mountaineers, every so many years, and it's weird because I kid you not, they do this. Every so many years, they produce a quarterback that can perform at a high level in the pros. And Geno Smith was that forgotten guy. And, yeah, I would love to see Geno come down here. I mean, listen, when you're in a position where you're looking for a quarterback and you have something to offer, like our wide receiver room, our defense, you know what I'm saying? When you have something like that to offer, the question is, what's the best fit and how do we get them? So, and Todd Bowles, as far as is he the long-term answer? Todd sees the game from a defensive standpoint because he played defense. Unfortunately, that doesn't allow him to see the game in the offensive perspective, such as like a Andy Reid who just won another Super Bowl against his old team, may I add. I'll put it to you like this. If anybody who watches the NBA, you guys see Charles Barkley when he's commentating, and he'll say this: I'll take good offense over good defense any day. And that's because good offense comes down to executing even when there's good defense. It's a very deep personification of a word that takes place when you watch these sports that require a lot of one-on-ones like basketball and sometimes football, like for instance when a receiver or a running back is getting the ball in the flat. That's what you're looking for. Unfortunately, from an offensive perspective, Todd Bowles does not have that eyeball. He doesn't, because when you're a defensive guru, you have to give something up. And in his case, it's his foresight on the offensive side of the ball. That's what he lacks. So if we could find ourselves in a situation where Dave Canellis gets trusted to be able to run the offense without needing Todd Bowles' every major situation, it could lead to better productivity on the field, especially with young players having a young coach there. But that's a 50-50 ball game, right? Like, there's no guarantee that's going to happen. So, it's kind of an up and down scary thing with the head coach being as good as he is on the defensive side of the ball. And I think this is why most of the time when you see a defensive coordinator move to a head coach and they succeed, it's usually because the offense is already good, right? Like, and vice versa. I'll give you an example. When the defense is already good and the offense needs to perform, look at Tampa Bay in the 2002 season, in the first year they won a Super Bowl. They had the best defense in the league by far. I mean, it's just, you see the talent. There's 4 Hall of Famers now from that team. Could be 5. Honestly, could be 6. And that doesn't even scratch the surface as what they were able to do as a unit without the offense performing, right? So then you bring in John Gruden, now the offense is performing, right? You got Brad Johnson throwing 5 touchdowns against Minnesota, against Atlanta, against multiple teams that year, which is something that a Tampa Bay quarterback hadn't done for years. So you look at that as we say, oh, okay, well, that was the shocker. It was the same thing when we won the Super Bowl 20 years later, 2001 season when Tom comes over, because 2001, 2020, 2021, Jesus, I can't English right now, but we had a tremendous defense. It was a top 5 defense already, right? And I think number 1 at stopping the run. And then we were lacking that explosiveness on offense. Even though we had the weapons, you go get Tom Brady. Tom Brady gets comfortable with the deep ball, and all of a sudden you have one of the greatest passing seasons in NFL history with one of the most electrifying offenses for at least a single season there was. Because, I'm going to remind everybody this. That receiving core, which in my opinion, I'm biased, of course, but I think is the greatest receiving core of all time. You go Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, Gronkowski. I don't see how you're really finding me a better wide receiver core than that. I don't really see how you're going to be able to top that. So, not to mention Lenny Fournette, too, in the backfield. Like, that offense was just nuts. So, we'll see if that Tampa Bay team can return to that type of dominance on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, we just got to get healthy, and we got to draft well again. We've been drafting very well in the draft, or in the defensive side of the ball, in the last, really since Jason Light came here. He's been doing a phenomenal job, drafting defensive talent. So he's just got to continue that this year. Make sure that we get the spots that are important. We're still going to have to draft a quarterback no matter who we go get. And that's just for the healthiness of the team. And trust me, guys, you don't want to have this. You don't want to have a 2-man quarterback, like, what do you call it, battle in training camp. You want to have a starter and a very competent backup, period. All right. So, yes, and XFL is back. That's actually something I was going to touch on in a second. So I was actually just watching the game that was on. It was Vegas versus Arlington. And, man, it's crazy that even though NFL football is gone, that we can still get pro football and it still be good football, because this game was a very interesting game. You had, Vegas coming in playing okay on offense. They start turning the ball over, get 2 pick sixes, and all of a sudden Arlington's ahead 22-15 with, less than 2 minutes to go on the clock. And then Vegas goes down the field, in dramatic fashion, scoring making it a 2-point game with 8 seconds to go, and then they get sacked on a 2-point conversion. So, guys, just because NFL football is gone doesn't mean that there's no pro football going on. The XFL just demonstrated just how exciting the game of football still is, whether it's in the NFL, whether it's college, whether it's just another brand of pro football. Guys, that's a beautiful thing. I was very happy to see it personally. I turned it on and I smiled. So, that just more food for thought for those who are missing pro football at the moment. But guys, let's go ahead and slide on to the Jags and the Fins. There's not a whole lot also to report for those teams either. Again, just because of where we're at in the swing of things, once we get closer to the draft, obviously it's going to get a lot more dense and there's going to be a lot more moves of a bigger stature to talk about. But as far as the Jags go, the biggest thing coming out of Duval is that Calvin Ridley, the wide receiver who was suspended, is applying for reinstatement. He should get it. If I remember correctly, his suspension was due to the gambling situation, I think it was, while he was in Atlanta. I'll be the first one to tell you guys, I think it was BS. I think it was a hoax. I think they were just trying to make an example, even though there was no example needed to be made. I don't really see anything he did wrong as far as the concept of betting on, whatever the case may be. Hey, they punished him. He served his punishment. Bring him back. Let him play football. The guy played at Alabama. He played in Atlanta. Guys, I watched him in Alabama. He's a tremendous talent. He's got great ball skills. If he can stay healthy, he'll be a huge threat for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So we will see what happens, there. And then lastly, the Fins. Now, the Fins, the Vic Fangio is still the biggest hire for them so far. But there was some good news coming from Tua. Tua was saying, "Hey, look, guys, he's gonna play. Obviously, he's gonna continue to play football. And we kind of all figured that. But he looks like he's in a really good headspace. That he's getting the help that he needs to get in order to be proficient at the game. And hopefully, that also means that he's sitting down talking to his offense and the safety personnel, saying, "Hey, listen, guys, if I go down and it looks weird, stop the game. Come get me." Make sure you guys are doing you guys' part to make sure I'm being as safe as I can be too, because all I can do is go out there and play the game as safely as possible. But I still got to play the game. That's what you guys are paying me for. That means everybody else has to be doing their job. And again, player safety is key. It's paramount. All right. So without that, there is no football. Without that, nobody can truly play the game and have a good time playing it. So yeah, we'll see what happens. And still, again, with the Vic hiring, that's still the biggest thing coming out of Miami, but it is a huge deal. It was a tremendous hire, so happy for you guys there in that regard. And at this point, what else can you do besides keep your quarterback healthy? Because, again, when y'all are healthy, top 5 offense, defense, top 10 in takeaways, and I think scoring defense as well. So, you guys got a good squad. And then Jags are on the rise. All the teams in Florida are looking pretty good right now as long as Tampa Bay can find a quarterback. So I like the state, where we're headed in the state as far as that's concerned, and the progression of our sports, especially with football. And guys, let's go ahead and get into our first break. And when I get back, we'll go ahead and talk a little bit of college football. We'll hit the NBA, we'll hit the NHL, we'll hit MLB. We'll talk about all those little things. And I'll leave you with a little bit what's going on at Fight Night here for the UFC, because there is a Fight Night tonight. So guys, hang in there with me. Thank you again for joining me here on Palm Tree Sports. I'm your host, Corey Pujols. It is brought to you by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all those sports. You keep it locked here, guys. I'll be right back to you in 2 minutes, okay?
Lopan. They didn't even want you. Heck, they didn't even want me. But you know what? Right about now, they have no choice. Looking for the real sports talk? Talk that's for us, the people? Look no further. The Wait a Minute Show. A prime-time sports comedy cocktail that tucks you in at night. Join me and Lopan Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 2livestewsradio.com and Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the waitaminuteshow.com. Sounds like a plan to me. Ain't that right, Lopan?
Indeed.
Ladies and gentlemen, hear me and hear me good. If you like sports, then you like the Wait a Minute Show. If you like comedy, then you like the Wait a Minute Show. If you like a different opinion coming from a different angle, then you like the Wait a Minute Show. So join me Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with your host, Jelani J.B. Bodie. And of course, my man Lopan on the WaitAMinuteShow.com. Ain't that right, Lopan?
And guys, don't miss out on it because, we cover everything over here in ICE Sports Radio. We got it all. And I'm always going to mention this whenever, we come back from break, just because, guys, it's so different to have one organization completely dedicated to all the sports. Anything you may need, anything that you follow, anything that is big and current in your life in the world of sports, there's something here for you. That's a beautiful thing. You can't find that everywhere. So, guys, thank you again, though, for joining us here. And we have a show called here Palm Tree Sports. I'm your host, Corey Pujols, brought to you by Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And this show is special for me because, growing up, I always looked at the announcers and the job that they do articulating the game, creating imagination, even if you're not watching the TV. For instance, if you're riding home on a Sunday afternoon coming from church, trying to zoom there to pick up on the Bucks game, that's something that I used to do all the time. And, we have a couple of radio show hosts here in Tampa and throughout Florida that are just absolutely phenomenal. The legendary Gene Deckerhoff, for those who know, who calls the Tampa Bay Buccaneers games in the afternoon. That guy gets you so hyped, especially, like I said, coming back home from church or from brunch with the family, whatever the Sunday afternoon affairs were, and just getting ready for some primetime football. That guy gets you ready. And so he was absolutely somebody that I looked up to and somebody that I hope to make proud, whenever I'm talking about our teams. But, guys, let's go ahead and jump into the next part. So we got a little bit of college football news right now. So obviously coming out of Florida, right? So the first things first is, for those who watched the Super Bowl, you guys saw Kadarius Toney. That is a product of Florida, guys. I got to put my team on the map. I love my Gators. I bleed the blue and orange like nobody's business. And it's not something that I get to talk about very often because every Super Bowl is different. Like, usually, obviously, you run the mill with the Alabamas and the Ohio State, those teams in production. But whenever we have a multiple Gators in a Super Bowl, it's always a phenomenal thing. We've had 21 years of it straight. But this past year with the Chiefs and the Eagles, we had quite a few of them there. Tommy Townsend went to Florida. Like I said, we had Kadarius Toney, and I don't know if the Chiefs still have. Oh, what is his name? There was another player, and I think he was a wide receiver, if I remember correctly. Yes, he was the Deontay Robinson. All right, Deontay Robinson. He was also a big-time receiver at Florida. Then he transferred. So that was one of those things where it's like, yeah, he was kind of there. I think he was only there for 2 years. But he was a big piece of our offense, especially when we had Will Grier at quarterback, for those who know that name. So it was great to see all those Buccaneers performing. Obviously, Chauncey Gardner was in there as well for the Eagles, and many other players. So it's a very good and a very humbling yet refreshing feeling to know that, hey, we're not only overproducing talent, but, some of the top talent that's out there, part of these Super Bowl teams. And, like I said, 21 straight years of it. So that was a phenomenal thing, as was the XFL, represented by many Gators that played. I was going to say Buccaneers, but Gators that played, as one of the game that just ended, the Arlington versus Vegas game. There were quite a few former Gators there that I heard, and just hearing their names, it's like, oh, he played at Florida. He played at Florida. Wow, that's crazy. So, guys, that's something that you don't notice often. Obviously, as we continue to graduate more and more students, we'll see more and more of that production come out of all these colleges. But, speaking on Florida's behalf, they've been all over the place. So, shout out to the Gators. You guys, I love you guys. Absolutely phenomenal work you're doing up there in Gainesville. I can't wait to see what happens this year with this season, especially under Billy Napier in his second season. So we're going to see what happens there, and hopefully it's just another phenomenal season for us, something that we can hang our hats on, and we'll go from there, guys. Now, moving on over to the Noles, right? So the only big deal about the Noles is basically their college basketball team just sucks right now, all right? Now, I didn't mention anything about Florida's because Florida, that's a 50-50 ball game right now. They're losing, but they're not losing as much as FSU. I'm not saying that to throw shade, because this is the first time in 20 years, in 21 years to be exact, I think it is, that FSU has had a 20-loss basketball season, college basketball season. That's the reason why I'm bringing that up, because that's not something that happens often. Usually with really good with colleges that perform very well in football, in the field of football, have a lot of dual sport athletes. Okay, so what I mean by that is there are a lot of teams who have, like, for instance, the Gators have a lot of football players that also play basketball. They also run track. Some of them play baseball. Okay, that's what I mean. FSU is no different. Miami's no different. These are all teams that possess a lot of players on both sides of multiple sports. And so when you look at that and you say, okay, what's going on? Well, truly that Florida State's basketball team has been isolated to those just playing basketball. A lot less dual threat options there, and that's starting to show. So there's going to need to be a huge overhaul and rebuild there on FSU's basketball side. They're not going to be anywhere near ready for March Madness. The Gators aren't doing too much better, but they're a little bit better off. They have some sort of direction. They have a couple of guys that know what they're doing. They just need to put it all together. And they need to play better defense, because the Gators are not playing defense right now. And that's a big problem. I got to be honest, I watched the first half of one of the Gators games, and they were down like somewhere like 8 to 10 points or something like that at halftime. They just weren't playing defense. I turned the game off. All right, they got to play defense. If you're not going to play defense, don't bother playing the game. All right, period. We all know that, guys. We all know that for a fact, especially when you watch the NBA, what's going on there, which we'll touch on that in a second. So next up is the Canes. Canes had the busiest week, guys, okay? They hired 3 coaches, all right? They hired 3 coaches. Biggest hire was their defensive coordinator, okay? They did get Lance, all right, I'm going to say his name wrong because I never actually pronounced it before this. I actually don't even, I've never even seen Mr. Lance. I'm going to say Guidry. I think that's correct. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Now, I do apologize if I'm saying it incorrectly. Any Miami fans jump in the context and let me know. But, yeah, I do know this much, though. He is an accredited defensive coordinator. This guy is very well decorated. He's tremendous at recruiting, and I've seen that. At least I was able to pick up on that with some of the notes that I've been reading, from throughout Miami's tenure there. But even more important than that, the other 2 hires are going to be Shannon Dawson as offensive coordinator and Derek Nicholson, who's going to be taking over for Charlie Strong's position at the linebackers coach. Okay, so for those who don't know, Charlie got snubbed. I mentioned this last week. He got snubbed for defensive coordinator. It's a position he had before. He was actually a head coach before as well. But it was a position that I think he was eyeballing in Miami. He didn't get it. And once that happened, he realized, hey, I could get it somewhere else. So they had to go ahead and find a position. Derek Nicholson is going to be the guy taking over the linebacker position, coaching position there in Miami, for those who did not know. So congratulations to Miami on finding 3 coaches. I think you're still missing 2 positions that need to be filled. Excuse me. But don't worry, guys, because there are a lot of vacant coaching positions still throughout college football and the NFL for that matter right now, which is crazy considering the swing of how many positions are available to how many high-level prospects are available, because usually it's the other way around, right? Whether it's like, you have these head coaches, offensive coordinators, defensive coordinator, high-level coaches that can't find a place to go. So what do? They end up, having, like XFL or the CFL, whatever the case may be. They end up going somewhere else to a different professional league, whereas now there's so many positions open and not enough availability as far as the leadership, the veteranship, the ability to call on prior events and make successful with them, and things like that you look for in a coach. So it's a very interesting situation that we are in right now in that term. But hey, that's basically where diamonds are made. They say pressure makes diamonds, and so now a lot of people are going to have the opportunity to basically make their careers into diamonds, if you will. And we're going to see what happens there. We're going to see what happens with Miami. We're going to see what happens with the University of Florida with, again, Billy Napier in his second year. FSU doesn't even have a head coach yet. Their position is still considered to be one of the best positions, if not the best positionary job available. When I say position, I'm using the term position because this team, again, won 10 games last year. So any decent head coach right now should be able to easily come in here and challenge for ACC title after that. That's the idea. At least that's the feel. And I'm going to be honest with you again, after watching FSU last year, they played very well. They were the best team in the state of Florida last year, so we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens, guys. Moving on, let's go ahead and jump into the NBA real quick. We got the Heat and the Magic here. So as far as the Heat are concerned, the Heat, again, they're back on the plus side of the 500 mark, which was the first big step that needed to be done earlier this season. It was the first thing that we talked about. The second thing was getting healthy, of course, and playing better defense, because it doesn't matter what squad you have, you're going to have to still execute the game plan whether you're healthy or not. That's what separates good teams from NBA championship teams. We've seen it before. And so now the Heat are just going to have to do it again. Under Eric Spoelstra, there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to do it. Terrific head coach, terrific leadership, terrific talent on both sides of the ball. Again, just a situation where the team has to put it together. Now, they lost to the Nets 116-105, okay? That's a sad face. They're on a 2-game losing streak. That's a sad face. They're about to play the Bucks. That's a sad face. So, Miami, let's try to turn some of these sad faces into smiles. Can't do anything about the games that are already lost. The Nets are rocking a 34-24 record. They're plus 10. The Heat are 32-27, so they were the clear favorite as far as the records are concerned. And the production will speak for itself once we get closer down the line after this All-Star break, because that's currently what's enveloping the NBA right now. For those who don't know, All-Star break is pretty much this weekend right now, and it started off pretty good so far. So we'll see what happens next. Obviously, the Bucks are rocking second place, all right, in the Eastern Conference. They're playing tremendous basketball behind Giannis, but that's pretty much been the norm for the last few years. I don't know, Miami. we're just gonna have to shoot well at the perimeter, guys. That's all I can say, because getting inside the paint against this team, it's easier said than done. Of course, you're gonna score inside the paint. You're gonna have to get and ones, try to retire somebody early in the game if you can, and just go from there, right, guys? It's going to be a strategic bout to win this game. It's always going to be strategic whenever you're playing against the Bucks or Boston or anything like that. So good luck, Heat. You guys can win it. The Bucks are rocking a 41-17 record. Again, that's good enough for second place in the East, guys. And we'll just, like I said, have to see what happens. That game will be February 24th. That's a Friday, 7:30 p.m. So check it out. It's going to be a great game. I myself am going to try to watch it. Obviously, it's going to be at 7:30 p.m. So it's going to be that and a few other things I'm going to be catching up on. But guys, that's what's up from Miami. Next is the Magic. The Magic, less exciting season. It's unfortunate. The 24-35 record instantly stands out. It's 11 games under 500. It's not where you want to be as a franchise, but unfortunately, there's not much they can do about it. They just lost Mo Bamba to trade to LA. I'm a Lakers fan by virtue of LeBron James. I am a LeBron James fan first and foremost. So as a result, I can tell you right now that it did help the Lakers. Mo Bamba was already balling for the Lakers. The Magic received Pat Beverly. We'll see what happens there with Pat. He's a tremendous talent, yes, but truly Mo Bamba is the better option if given the two choices for this LeBron-led team, especially with the type of depth that they now have, and also the fact that they can shoot from the perimeter, making AD, LeBron, and Mo just that much more dangerous inside the paint, which those guys are already as dangerous as they can be. So, hey, there's that. The next game, before I get to the next game, the last game that was played by the Magic was lost to the Raptors. The Raptors are rocking a 28-31 record, so they're knocking on the door to 500, just about what you would expect from this kind of team. The final score was a 123-113. That's a 10-point differential. Again, you know what that means. They weren't playing defense, especially when the other team is scoring 123 points. Guys, we know what we got to do. You got to play defense to keep that team from scoring 100. Y'all got to score over 100. It's like that. In football, it's about 21 to 24 points is the threshold. If you want to keep your opponent's team from scoring 21 points to 24 points, you want to score at least 21 or more. If you ratio out those aspects from a good defense, a top 5 defense, and a top 5 offense, you'll find that you're probably going to go about 12-4 on a season ish. You know what I'm saying? So and that's pretty respectable. In a lot of conferences and a lot of divisions, that's winning. All right, and that's going deep into the playoffs. So guys, same mentality with basketball. Again, Orlando's going to have to rebuild through the draft. We'll see what they're able to do. The next game they have is against the Pistons. The Pistons are rocking the worst record in the NBA, I believe, at the moment, with a 15-44 record. So hopefully they can win that game, bounce back, and start building some momentum to get on the winning side of the column instead of that L side. Guys, let's go ahead and take another break, and when I get back, we'll cover the NHL, the MLB, and we'll cover some MMA for tonight, guys, and a little food from thought after that. I really appreciate you guys for having it locked here at Palm Tree Sports. My name is Corey Pujols, your host, and it's brought to you by iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Again, keep it locked here, guys. I'll be right back to you.
Hey, what's up, BS3 sports fans? If you love listening to the BS3 Sports Show, check out the weekend wrap-up every Monday at 12:15 Central Time, 1:15 Eastern, recapping the weekend in sports like you never heard it before. Comedy, interactive chat room, it's a must-listen. Weekend wrap-up on Spreaker.com, part of the X Squad. Check it out. You won't be disappointed.
Were you listening to a great game on USRN, but then the Wi-Fi crashed in the final seconds? Or do you simply want to listen to the best calls we here at USRN have to offer? Well then, you need to go check out our Audio Boom page. It holds a collection of our best calls that you don't want to miss. How do I get there, you ask? You can download the Audio Boom app and look up Ultimate Sports Radio, or simply go to audiobook.com/Ultimate Sports Radio. And as always, thanks for listening and making USRN one of the most talked about sports networks on Mixler.com.
Are you a fan of the best teams in the Buckeye State? Then this is a show for you. This is the State of Ohio Sports, where I, your host, Andrew Higginbotham, will bring you all the professional news as well as all things college from Northeast Ohio and Cleveland, all the way down to Southwest Ohio and Cincinnati, and even in the heart of the state in the state capital of Columbus. So if this sounds like the show for you, check out the State of Ohio Sports show every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Pacific on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And guys, I'm not even the biggest Ohio fan, but it's a beautiful thing. It really is. And you guys definitely got to check it out, because if you are, then it's right up your alley. You guys got to take into consideration, even though I have my own show here on IE Sports Radio, I still watch First Take in the morning. I still watch Good Morning Football NFL Network. I still get on YouTube and I check out what everybody had to say about everything. All right, guys, that doesn't change just because I give my own opinion and come at you guys with some of these, current events and what's, going on here in Florida, guys. I do more homework than I do talking. All right, you guys get me from 30 to 45 minutes, sometimes an hour long on here. Believe me, I've been reading articles since I woke up. Okay, since I wake up and Google's like, here you go, check this out, read this. So guys, I love it. So if you're into Ohio sports, if you're into your Buckeyes and your Cleveland Cavaliers, Cincinnati Bengals, the Browns, whatever it takes, guys, check it out. But right here on Palm Tree Sports, we're going to talk about Florida teams. All right, guys. And again, I'm your host, Corey Pujols, brought to you by Sports Radio, direct feed for all that sports, guys. Let's go ahead and jump into some information. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the Rays first, because, again, we're waiting for spring baseball to take off, which means there's not a whole lot to talk about there. But one of the most important things is that we just had FanFest. So for all those who don't know, down here, we love sports. Okay, now I know it might sound cliche. Oh, you're Florida, this tropical paradise. Y'all don't even celebrate Christmas, or you don't have wintertime. We celebrate Christmas. We don't really have wintertime. We just have a cold period, and it's random. So we never know when it's going to hit till it gets here. And then we wake up, we go outside, and we're like, oh, okay, go back inside, change. I kid you not, guys, talk to anybody from Florida. That's how we do. All right, we don't even know. We don't even know the night before, the day before. We'll see in the morning we open the door. So, but with that being said, the Rays, man, FanFest, huge. We do it for all of our teams. We have for the Bolts, we have for the Rays, we have for the Bucks. We've been doing it for the Bucks for a while now. I think at least a decade, 2 decades. I mean, I met Rondé Barber, for crying out loud. So that's easily 2 decades, probably bigger than that the Bucks have been doing it. The Rays have been doing it for about as long. The Bolts have been doing it, I believe, since we won our first Stanley Cup final, maybe beforehand. So, guys, that's it. I love the FanFest, is basically what I'm getting at. And for those who don't have those in your cities and your states, I do apologize. Y'all know what y'all are missing. It's just great, guys. You get to go out there. Sometimes the players are out there, signing autographs, taking pictures, doing the whole 9 yards, but also being able to get your hands on some of the merchandise. A lot of the time, these FanFests have merchandise that maybe wasn't previously in stock. Something changed. A player got changed. Sometimes this is, an easy way to get your hands on some of that stuff, and some of it for free. So huge deal there. Shout out to everybody who went out to go support our Rays. We love the Rays. We love you guys. Can't wait for spring baseball to roll back around. I myself have been missing baseball, and you don't know how much you miss baseball until it's gone, guys. Same thing with football. You don't know how much you miss until it's gone. So can't wait. That's going to be a fun time. Looking ahead to the season, can't wait to see what happens there. We're going to lean heavily on our coaching staff, which is one of the better staff in the league, and hopefully they can help guide us to a World Series victory, because guys, we are like the Bills, all right? We'll go and we'll lose, all right? We'll go, but we're going to lose. And I don't want to. I'm tired of this. We make the playoffs, we look good, we're young, we're hungry, and then we get like Boston. It's like the Boston Celtics the last couple years. Like, oh, they're young, they're hungry, they're puppies, but they're really, really good. You're really good when you win, all right, a World Series. That's when you're really good. All right, guys, let's call it what it is. You're really good when you win a World Series. So let's go Rays. Moving on to the Bolts. Now, this is exciting, guys. Now, for the last couple of weeks, it's been very exciting. But for those who do not know, we play hockey down here. And I'm going to say that every week because it's funny how some of these teams play a sport that comes from, quote-unquote, a cold place. And it don't really get cold down here, all right? And somehow these boys down here, they play their tails off. I'm going to call it what they play their ass off, okay, guys? They really and truly do. I love to see how my Bolts are performing right now. Looking really, really good right now, all right? So I'm going to go ahead and run you the stats real quick. They are 35, 16, and 3, all right? That is good enough for third place, all right? And that third place is a very loose. It's almost like a third place with an asterisk next to it, because let's just be clear. Second and third place are separated by a game and a half, 2 games. All right, guys? So a 2-game series sliding one way or the other basically just determines who has second place, who has third place. Both of these teams are jockeying for position. First place is sitting at 41 wins. I think it was like 41 and 14 or something like that. Like, it was ridiculous. But, hey, I'm taking third place. I love the way our boys are playing. How are they playing, you ask? We're on a 3-game win streak. We have been basically still just outscoring everybody flat out. We're just going to call it like what it is, whether it's a one-puck game or it's multi-puck game. We had a wash earlier. We've been having some one-puck victories, but I've always said this, hockey, just like baseball, good ball clubs win 1-1 ball games. Guys, good hockey teams win one-puck games, okay? Period. It's a beautiful thing. I love to see what I'm saying from my Bolts. They have the Golden Knights tonight, 10:30 tonight, guys. I'm going to pop in, probably watch that game. I'll catch some of it because I'll be watching, obviously, UFC tonight as well for fight night. But I will pop in and check the score of that game. The Golden Knights are rocking a 33-18-4 record, so they're rocking a pretty solid record as well. We're going to see how that game's. Hopefully we can play solid defense as we've been doing and outscore them. We're going to have to tighten up on the defense a little bit because we've been giving up some scores, okay? So hopefully we can bring that back around. Once we've done that, we'll be good to go. Cruising on in, hopefully into the playoffs, and continue to look good from there, guys. I love the way our team is playing. We got the foot on the gas right now. We're one of the hottest teams in the league, so let's just keep it up. Keep outscoring these opponents. Keep scoring on power plays. Keep playing defense, especially when it matters most. And let's just, find our ways back into the playoffs again, guys, as we start to get closer and closer to that aspect, all right? Now, I mentioned UFC tonight, all right? So, good news, bad news on the UFC front. The UFC event is a fight night, so it's going to be free for everybody to watch. Here's the bad news. The fight that, in my opinion, would have been the fight to watch got canceled. All right, so for any of those real MMA fans out there, real quick. For any of those real MMA fans out there, you guys will know the name Marlon Chito Vera, okay, and Corey Sandhagen. All right, Corey Sandhagen has some very crisp and unorthodox striking, something that is very, very poised for somebody who also, like Marlon Vera, has very crisp and orthodox striking. But, this guy, he's a little bit more sure shooting down the pipe. Now, for those who do not know, and for those who are martial arts aficionados, you guys may know of the Sugar Show, all right? He fought Marlon Chito Vera, and that's the only loss on Marlon Chito Vera's record, all right? So, for those who know Sugar Sean O'Malley, the only loss on his record is to Marlon Chito Vera. That's the reason why that fight would have been very interesting, especially fighting somebody, the striker that is Corey Sandhagen. This guy was rocking a 15-4 record against Marlon Chito Vera's 21-7 record, I think it was. So that was going to be a very, very good fight. Definitely setting up for a pound-for-pound top 5 fight depending on who won that fight. So having that pushback really sucks. But not to be sold and outdone, guys. We do still have Jessica Andrade versus Miss Blanchfield. I can't remember Blanchfield's first name. I can see her in my mind, but I can't remember her first name. But she's also fighting now. She's a younger girl. Jessica Andrade's a UFC vet. You know, she's been around there for a long time. I believe she even held the title at one point, the flyweight title, I believe it was. And at one point, it might have been the interim title. But, guys, that fight's going to be a very interesting fight. Y'all know Jessica brings a lot of energy, a lot of heavy hands and striking to the mix. So that'll be a very interesting main event for tonight. So, guys, if you guys are looking for a little combat sports action tonight, boom, there you go. That'll be a good one there tonight. Fight night. And there's obviously been more announcements. The UFC 287 is going to have Izzy versus Alex again this will be their 4th time fighting, 2nd time in the UFC, guys. I can't wait for that fight. I can't wait for Izzy to get his belt back. I don't see how he's not going to lose to him a 2nd time. I don't see it happening. Not this time. Izzy's going to get his revenge. He deserves it. So, guys, for the most part, that's everything that I have for you. But I did want to touch on those things as far as the current events. I'm happy you guys were able to stick with me here on this Saturday afternoon, guys. We do this every Saturday at 6 p.m. And like I said, we're going to cover everything in the world of sports. We're going to talk about all the current events, and we're going to talk about a little bit of what to watch, especially coming up, especially if you're interested in Florida sports, to see what we're doing and where we're going, especially now that we're heading into we're not heading into, but we're in the off season, right? For baseball, for football, and still for college football as well. So the NBA and the college basketball scene will still be lit up. Hopefully the Gators can crack March Madness. We'll see what happens. Knowles, unfortunately, you guys are going to have to worry about next season. And, you know, that's going to be the next big thing, March Madness. So you guys get ready for that. There's going to be a lot of betting. There's going to be a lot of Vegas. You have to put your money where your mouth is there, all right, guys? So we'll see what happens there. And in the meantime, between time, again, thank you so much for joining me here on Palm Tree Sports. I am your host, Corey Pujols. If you guys ever want to talk about anything sports-related, anything at all, actually, you know, hit me up on Twitter. I'm there. I freely express my mind, and I expect others to do the same there. Hit me up, guys, at Corey Pujols. I would love to have a conversation with you about whatever's on your mind. If you have any questions about sports here in Florida, again, I'll be more than happy to answer those questions for you. So, guys, have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the rest of the sports. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Spend time with your family. All right, my son will be here soon. I can't wait. All right, you guys. So, thank you again. Have a wonderful upcoming week, and I'll speak to you next time. Peace.